area that decided to wear T-shirts with a Bible verse, scripture on it. And they're almost, I'd say 80–90% of them were Russian and Ukrainian immigrants. Very strong in their faith, very strong in their convictions against the state. They don't trust the state. Their families, and they're very big on their freedoms. They will not relinquish their freedoms. So they went to their school, and the principal said, these are good kids. They're hardworking kids. And so the principals told them you have to remove their shirts or be suspended. And they got together. They said, well, we need to pray about this. And the principal says, well, you go ahead and do that. And so they come back and they say, well, we prayed about it, and we decided if we have to choose between being suspended or having to forfeit our liberties and our faith and our beliefs and what we believe, then you'll have to suspend us because we will not surrender. So they were suspended. We took on that case. We represented them. We got all their suspensions removed from the records and a complete rescission of that by the local school districts. And, so we're very present on that. That said, case law in California, unfortunately, has been muddied by a case down from Poway Unified School District. And so we're yet to see that play out fully in the courts. And very good.
But aren't these administrators, shouldn't they be fined or docked or
they should
their jobs or something? Because
they should
against them.
I think so. And I think what needs to play out is in school board meetings. Now, the school board will not make public comments about employees, and there's certain California provisions and regulations regarding that, limits that in terms of hiring issues and firing issues and termination. Maybe we should have those amended statutorily, but that's what we have. But I think putting pressure on your school board members and saying, we want these people fired. For example, we had a school district that we sued, Nevada Unified School District, for outrageous things they're bringing in to the young kids at an elementary school level. ACLU was on the other side saying parents have no rights over their kids when the kids are dropped off in a public school. We disagreed. And so we litigated. At the end of the day, not only did we get them to change their policies, but they replaced their superintendent with one that was on our side. So you can't, even in Nevada, which is not, a conservative country, it's not. So, I mean, you really, if you put the pressure on, you can get changes. So, but it's not easy. But thank you for bringing that up. That's something to watch out for, yes.
One of our basic rights in this country is the right to free and fair elections, and I may be alone, but somehow I think one of our problems in California is a lot of people that aren't citizens are voting.
Right.
But I don't hear anybody from the government or anywhere else. Is there anything your organization can do to try and clean up the election laws and enforce them so that only citizens vote?
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. That's something I think at our next board meeting we may be addressing as far as something to target. Frankly, right now we have 4 attorneys on staff. 2 of our 4 attorneys we had to reduce from 5-day work weeks to 3-day work weeks because of our funding.
So if we donate a lot of money,
that will help us. I'm just being point blank. I mean, we want to continue doing the volume, but that was something that I think is very important, because if we don't have to maintain the integrity of the ballot box, then we don't have a free country, because people will give up on ballot voting and they'll seek other means to accomplish their ends, and it's just a downward spiral. I think that's very important. You have people who are not alive voting, and you have people who are not here legally voting, and then you have people who should not be voting because of their past criminal records. So, yes.
Interstate Commerce Clause, you mentioned the issue of the people having the right and whether the federal government has the power. What about the insurance companies who are prohibited from selling insurance interstate? Isn't that a violation of the same clause?
That's a good question, and I'll be honest with you, I've never thought about that.
I didn't either until tonight when you were talking. That's what I asked.
That is a very good question. I think.
That's a clear violation. You're prohibiting these insurance companies from selling interstate commerce and reduce the rates nationwide.
Yeah, if they're keeping, I never thought of that, but on the face of it, I'd have to research that. But on the face of it, that's. It's very good. That'd be very helpful, probably. So thank you. Yeah, and that's as far as real reform. That's one of the underpinnings of real reform. One is tort reform, and another one is letting the free market flourish. Enforcing these insurance companies to really compete. More competition helps the consumer. So in some states, you only have one major company. And yet we wonder, and then yet the cost because of Obamacare is going to be increasing over 13% just because of Obamacare over the next 2 years. 13%, that's a conservative estimate, so I agree, we need it, that's good.
How effective do you think the use of the Congressional Review Act is going to be to blunt the effect of the liberal EPA and especially the Net Neutrality Act that was put into effect recently?
The Net Neutrality Act?
And by using the Congressional Review Act to blunt that with Congress, the
Okay.
Republicans.
Next question. I wish I knew more about that.
That's basically saying that Congress, it was put in 96.
Like they can amend the EPA with certain circumstances, i.e. like the little critter in the Bay Area is keeping water from flowing to our farmers. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, this is like saying for net neutrality that we have these liberal appointees at the EPA, liberal appointees in the FCC
Right.
that are making regulations that this current Congress does not agree with, and that they can go in and effectively turn them over and say that they are not constitutional. That's what the Congressional,
Oh, I see what
Review
you're
Act
saying.
is.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good question. I'm not educated on that. That's a good question. I'm really frustrated with how Barbara Boxer blocked the legislation that even Feinstein was backing that would have turned the water on to the Central Valley and our farmers. I think that's outrageous, and how someone like that can be re-elected to the Senate when there's so many Californians out of work, 30% unemployment in Modestos and other places, directly because of the water being shut off by her and her aggressive efforts to keep the water shut off. I think that was outrageous. So that has probably nothing to do with what you just said, but I thought I'd say it anyways. Yeah, very good, thank you. Yes?
Hi Rob, my name's Rob.
Hi, Rob.
First I want to thank you for giving me hope that Jerry Brown and the Democrats are going to balance the budget.
I know, it does sound crazy, I know.
My concern there is that, my concern is that if instead of them balancing the budget, what if they just push things back to the cities and counties? And yeah, and what I see is, I see these traffic cameras that are 50% owned by private companies and 50% owned by the cities,
Right.
and the shortening of the yellow lights and the $482 tickets. I see the cellular phone fees at, going to 40%. Is there any limit to what's going to happen if they just push everything back to the cities and counties? Are we looking at $1,000 traffic tickets?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm sure there's some statutory limitations as to certain levels of fees for different fines and things like that would have to be approved, legislative approved to be increases, would be fee increases. But actually that's something to watch for, is the extent to which they do try to just really push it on the local governments. No, yeah. I wish there was. But it's something to watch to see what they're gonna do on that. I hope that I was hoping to see lots of cuts in spending. Someone once asked me, they said, well, what if they cut something in the state budget that you really like? And I said, well, what in the state budget do I really like? I mean, what government spending do I really, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be crying at all. So, but yes.
First, I just want to clear one thing up. It was the Patriot Garden Riders and not the Hells Angels that rode in with the kid on the bike.
Okay.
It's a big difference. My question is, you talked about a legislation or a law that was for the unions. They couldn't fire somebody for their beliefs in political or religious beliefs.
Right.
Yeah. Could you write that? Tell me what that law is again. The number on it.
Well, actually, I can. Well, specifically, it's section 701J. But specific, I'll make it really easy for you. If you go to our webpage, pacificjustice.org, pacificjustice.org, or PJI, I'll get you there. Also, pji.org. There'll be a little part in the upper right-hand corner. It'll say Union Objectors. Click that, and it takes you to a page with information, an article I wrote, and then it's another page, totally new website we created called ChooseCharities.org, and that gives you more information about how to opt out of a union and how all your unions just go to a charity instead, the whole 9 yards. And then, and most importantly, just know you can